So the UK government are slashing energy prices, but I'm not really sure how to feel about it. Let me explain. British businesses to save over £400 million a year as government slashes electricity costs. Now, I read this and I thought, you know what, there's a good video here. We can bring some good news about British politics to the people. But there's actually a lot more to this story than you'd think. But very quickly, a quick shout out to private internet access. If you're looking for a fantastic VPN that helps you stay safe and secure online without the government tracking what your online browsing activity is, make sure to use my link down below or this QR code here where you can get yourselves 4 months free and 86% off. Now let's get back to the video. So around 500 of the UK's most energy intensive businesses are set to save up to £420 million per year on their electricity bills from next April, as the government takes decisive action to slash industrial energy costs. Now this really only applies to obviously a very small amount of businesses, that's 500 businesses, and in particular these are for industries including steel, chemicals, cement, glass and paper, employing around 400,000 people to benefit from their 90% discount on the electricity network charges. Now, I think it's a good thing in general that we are basically allowing the operating costs of businesses to go down, which then makes the product more competitive, which then means that we can compete in wider markets better, which overall means these companies can grow, employ more people and bring more money into the UK. That is a good thing. Let's not pretend it isn't. That is a good thing. However, if they can afford a 90% reduction for all of those businesses in their energy prices, why can't they give the British public a 5% discount on their energy prices? Why can't some savings at all be passed along to the British population, many of which are sat at home at the moment with no fire, no heaters or anything? Coming into winter, why have they now chose to release this press release about helping the commercial side of the industry rather than necessarily the humanitarian side of the British population? Now, I want to be categorically clear here. This is a good thing for the British economy. It just is a good thing for the British economy. It will promote trade if it's regulated. If these savings are just basically used to line the pockets of these companies, then it's not really helping them, become more competitive in the industry. All it's doing is providing higher profit margins for these companies. And for all we know, many of those could be taken as dividends by directors and all of this stuff. So it's very loose. I think there's the skeleton of a good plan here, but that's it. Unprecedented support brings UK industrial energy costs down in line with European competitors to protect jobs and attract new investment, helping drive growth and deliver a plan for change. Now, once again, this is a very interesting point to make because there's a reason why our energy costs are so high. Is that because of the taxation on it by the UK government? Is that to do with the fact that energy companies are driving their prices up? Is it the fact that the energy is costing more to get? Are we paying more for things like oil? There's a whole conversation to be had about why prices are going up. I think just saying we're going to reduce the pricing is one thing, but then I think there needs to be a deeper exploration into why it costs so much anyway. Business rates for electricity are significantly higher than residential, and that disparity is constantly growing. So we need to figure out why. What's happened to cause that? Because Labour may put this in place and, for a period of time it might help with an issue, but then the next government can just undo this. And then we are basically completely writing off all of those cost savings for these businesses. I'm not a politician and I'm not qualified to talk about this. As it says on my channel, I'm just a man with opinions. But I think we need to look at the root cause of why electricity costs are so high and how we can get that to be cheaper. And the answer is nuclear energy, but that's a conversation for a different day. Business Secretary Peter Kyle, the same Peter Kyle that said that if you're in support of the Online Safety Act, you're on the side of nonsense, has today announced that the government will power ahead with plans to increase the discount on electricity network charges for businesses in sectors like steel, cement, glass and chemicals, which employ around 400,000 people in total across the UK, from 60% to 90%. That's a massive saving. Some of these businesses currently pay the highest industrial electricity prices in the G7. Well, they do use more electricity, that's making it harder to stay competitive on the international stage, which is why the government has taken decisive action to deliver this relief and level the playing field for the industry. But wouldn't it be significantly better to level the playing field for the whole UK economy so everyone can benefit from those cheaper prices by finding what the root cause is and fixing that root cause? The landmark support, which has been delivered at no extra cost to taxpayers, fills a crucial promise in the UK's modern industrial strategy launched in June, which follows a 4-week consultation on the plans for the increased discount which ran between July and August this year. Now, it is worth saying here that they are saving money and it's no extra cost to taxpayers. I do think that they should clarify where exactly the money is coming from, because obviously a lot of this stuff at the moment is private companies, and there is a large amount of the infrastructure that's state owned. Well, for the companies that are currently involved with private businesses and private energy companies, how is that saving being done? Because I doubt these energy companies are just going to agree to charge 90% less without receiving some sort of subsidy from the government. And if there is some sort of subsidy from the government, that's going to be coming out of taxes. I feel like one sentence there isn't enough to clarify how this works. The increased discount will also slash costs for a range of businesses across Scotland and Wales to help them support local jobs and deliver growth, including Tata Steel at Port Talbot and Ineos in Grangemouth, ensuring the benefits are felt right across the country. Isn't Tata Steel not a British-owned company, i.e. the money they generate, doesn't that go overseas? So are necessarily those savings going to be passed on to the UK, or is that going to be passed on to like headquarters overseas? I don't know enough about business. I could be entirely wrong about that, just to make that categorically clear. It comes on top of the government's landmark British Industrial Competitiveness Scheme, announcing the Modern Industrial Strategy, which will slash energy costs by 25% for over 7,000 businesses from 2027 in sectors like aerospace, automotive and chemicals, supporting hundreds of thousands of skilled jobs in these industries. Now, I'm not doubting at all that this is a good thing. Of course, we want to encourage the growth and scaling of British industry. I say this wearing a German hoodie, but at one point the UK was the powerhouse of automotive manufacturing for the whole world, and it would be absolutely brilliant to see that industry thrive again. Like, it would be amazing to see like new car brands appearing, like Lotus receiving more funding to make some cool cars. And obviously, me being a car nerd, I'm probably more biased into caring more about this sort of stuff. I'm not saying at all that it's not a good thing that we are going to be seeing, businesses benefiting from lower costs of actually producing things like vehicles, steel, cement, all of this stuff. But the ideology here that it's not going to cost the taxpayer, well, where's the money coming from to subsidise this? But then to add to that, obviously a big problem in the UK at the moment is the cost of electricity bills residentially. They are very high, and the government has done things to offset those bills. But if their plan is to slash energy prices by 25% for over 7,000 businesses, why can't we go to like 5 to 10% for residential households? Maybe it's going to cost the government too much. Maybe that could be an ongoing problem. Maybe that's a discussion that needs to be had. I think it's important here to not bully the government for trying to do something that's beneficial to businesses. I think it's a good thing to have. But I do think that there's a lot here that's been left to the imagination. Where's the subsidy coming from? How many of these businesses are actually based in the UK, or are they just operating in the UK? And they claim that it will encourage more employment. How do we regulate that? How do we know that these savings are going to be passed on to make the end products cheaper, rather than necessarily, for example, the company making an extra 10% profit margin that just goes into the pockets of the shareholders? Now, of course, we live in a society where business owners should be able to make a profit off their businesses. But how do we make sure that the government kind of funded breaks in the efficiency and running of these businesses aren't being used to directly fund the businesses in terms of shareholder value and all of this stuff? I think it's an interesting conversation to have, and probably a conversation that I need to learn more about. Very keen to hear what your stance on this is down below. Obviously, this is like, there's so many different political sides to this in terms of what your stance is on corporations profiteering, but then at the same time, the government intervening in that. But then there's also the stance that electricity prices should be cheaper for the public. It's a really interesting food for thought conversation. So keen to hear what you think down below. Make sure to check out private internet access down below, or scan this QR code here. And I shall see you all in the next video.